As we near the start of the NFL season, I believe we talked about in a previous episode, we got a bunch of people making their top 100 lists. I know we actually broke down, I believe it was Pete Prisco of CBS. We actually used his to form ours, which you'll see later on here. But we kind of broke his down because he had Justin Jefferson rated pretty good, but he had a couple other Vikings were rated too low. Eric Kendricks didn't even make his list. And then, of course, I saw one on Twitter the other day, which I put a comment on, and it really got me wanting to make our own list because I saw it and I was just disgusted by what I saw on that list. So that's what we're going to do today. We put together, we just did a top 25, top 100. We figured it was a little bit too much work for us. We don't know all the players that well, but top 25, right. We figured we could handle. So in this episode, we are going to show you guys our top 25 players in the NFL list, starting at 25, working to 1. So let's jump in.
Yeah. Before we do that, though, I want to thank everybody for watching the GG Sport podcast of the Minnesota Vikings. We just hit past 500 subscribers, so we're officially halfway to 1,000 and on our road to that. So hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, get notifications for more of our videos. And yeah, let's jump right in here at number 25. The guy who protects Tom Brady's blind side, Tristan Wirfs.
I believe Tristan Wirfs is a right tackle, actually.
Right tackle, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was left tackle for some reason.
Right tackle.
Well, either way,
the
kid's a stud ever since coming in from Iowa, correct? And he was a guy who dropped quite a bit in the draft. Kind of. I mean, I think they got picked like 14th, or he was kind of considered a drop. And there was like 4 other guys, offensive linemen drafted before him. The Bucs got a steal. But he had a PFF grade of 84.6, allowed just 2 sacks, 3 penalties on 1,182 snaps. I mean, this guy's a stud. He's come in, probably one of the younger guys on this list. I mean, it's crazy to see how fast he's become one of the top offensive linemen in the league. I mean, you could have argued he did that almost after his rookie season just a couple years ago. Something like that. But what do you think?
I hate to put people above Brian O'Neill at right tackle, but Tristan Wirfs makes the cut. So, all right, moving on. Number 24, we have San Francisco wide receiver Deebo Samuel. Now, the thing with Deebo Samuel is he has that unique, I mean, just his size, first off, makes him that unique mix of, I see, of course, we have him beating a Vikings player back here, which is great to see. We have a unique mix of receiving and rushing ability. Now I believe he had 360 some rushing yards and 6 or 8 touchdowns, one of the two. And the receiving yards were off the charts as well. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but man, just the stuff that this guy can do on the football field is amazing, which is why he's in the middle of a contract dispute. I mean, he wants to be paid top of the position, and I don't know how you can say he hasn't deserved it. Just what he did for that offense with a subpar Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback was amazing. So if I'm San Francisco, I'm finding any way I can to keep this guy. He's a gadget player for sure. The unique blend of athleticism, and he's only in his 3rd season, going into his 4th. So guy's got amazing potential, and he's already shown much of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's the perfect gadget guy, like the ultimate gadget guy. Last year was definitely like his crazy breakout season, and he can literally do everything. It is wild how they just put him in the backfield like that, and he just becomes, and it is San Francisco's running game is insane. Just how they can do all of that stuff. But yeah, man, it'll be crazy to see if somehow he gets traded. I can't imagine San Francisco wants to lose this guy, but I think he's definitely proven himself as top 25 player this year.
Yep, for sure.
So at 23, we got Joey Bosa from the Los Angeles Chargers. I always want to say San Diego. Yeah, I'm not used to it yet.
They'll always be San Diego.
What's that?
So they'll always be San Diego Chargers.
Yeah, they'll always be San Diego Chargers. Yeah. He had 31 solo tackles last year, which was tied for 14th. 11 assist tackles, 10 sacks, and 6 forced fumbles, which was number 1 in the NFL. It's really interesting to see these brothers come in, and because we'll tap in on another Bosa later on, but it's just crazy that there's these brothers that are just elite at going to the NFL, like the Peyton Manning brothers and stuff like that. It's crazy, but 6 forced fumbles, 10 sacks. I mean, this guy's a stud as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, as you said, we have the other Bosa brother on this list. We'll get to him later. But yeah, I mean, and I'm excited to see what he can do with Khalil Mack on the other side of him now. I know when he had Melvin Ingram on the team, that was his best season. So seeing what he can do with a guy like Khalil Mack, if he can stay healthy, is going to be pretty amazing and fun to watch. So it'll be interesting. Definitely one of the top defensive linemen in the NFL, which is why we have him at number 23. Moving on to number 22, we get our first running back of the day, Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts. Obviously, Wisconsin Badger, of course. We'll put that behind us. We'll move on to what he's been doing in the NFL. The guy's been nothing short of spectacular. This last season, I mean, he's been good. He was good both years, actually. Looking at his stats here, his first season, he had 1,169 yards. This season, though, really broke out. 1,811 rushing yards, 18 touchdowns, as well as 360 receiving yards with 2 touchdowns this last season. The guy took hold of being the number 1 pick in fantasy football this year for sure.
Yeah.
Took hold. Basically, he was the reason that the Colts even had a chance of making the playoffs when it came to the end of the season. They lost. I believe they lost to the Jags or something to get in. But
I know.
The rest of that team, receiver wise, they don't have a ton. They have Michael Pittman Jr., who I like a lot. Outside of that, T.Y. Hilton is aging out. So this guy is a star of this football team. And he showed last year why he should be considered one of the best running backs in the NFL and most well-rounded running backs as well.
Yeah. And not obviously just one of the best players in the NFL. And he's a player. I mean, he's just going into his 3rd year, still super young. He's a guy that you could definitely see keep making his way up on this list of the top 25. From there, we go to number 21, Zach Martin. This guy is an absolute stud. How long has he been in the league for now? He's been in here for a while, but he's been like the top guard, at least top 1, 2 between him and Quentin Nelson ever since they've both come in. I think Quentin Nelson, he's been in here since 2014, but he allowed only 1 sack, which tied for first, 2 penalties and over 1,100 snaps with a overall PFF grade of 93.9, which is pretty absurd. I mean, this guy's been one of the big reasons ever since he's came in, one of the huge reasons why Cowboys have had the best, if arguably the best offensive lineman in the last decade.
For sure. I agree. He's definitely solidifies that offensive line. They're not the dominant force that they had been in years past due to injuries and whatnot.
Right.
But overall, though, the guy's a stud. One of the best offensive linemen in the league for sure, and definitely deserving of the number 21 spot on our list. So I get the next running back as well. Tennessee Titans running back Derrick Henry. Now his PFF grade last year doesn't tell those stories. 75.3, only played in 8 games. Obviously had the foot injury that kept him out most of the season. But man, in the first 8 games of the season, 937 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns in half of the season. Just think what he could have done if he got to play the whole season, man. This guy is an absolute bell cow running back. You don't see, I mean, the receiving game is limited from him. I don't think we're going to see many Derrick Henrys in the future. Just that straight up the gut running back, just tires out the defense. I mean, that's what you kind of see. Just keeps hammering away, gets, chunk of yardage, and then he just starts breaking off monster runs. And that's what he does. He wears out the middle of that defense. Obviously, it opened the door for Ryan Tannehill and the offense to do some things in the passing game. This last season, when he didn't play, you noticed that drop-off. The year before, when he had over 2,000 yards, Ryan Tannehill looked like a completely different quarterback. So it just shows Derrick Henry is what makes that Tennessee Titans offense run, and definitely deserving of being the top, spoiler alert, top running back on our top 25.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's a beast. He kind of reminds you of like what you're saying. He's like that workhorse running back, and he's the thing with him last year. If he didn't get injured, he could be a lot higher on this list because he definitely was on an MVP potential campaign before that because he's his last running back that I've seen in a while since honestly Adrian Peterson in 2012 probably where the team ran through him and he put that team on his back and was, they were getting a lot of wins and stuff like that. So it's crazy that you don't really see that in the NFL these days. And he's like the last running back that we've seen just carry his team.
Yeah.
From there, number 19. This is a pick that we think, a lot of people have him, this next guy, above a guy that we'll dive in the top 10 eventually here. But we have him at 19, and it is Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase came in last year. See, this is the thing for us, is we have a hard time putting people way too high after just one season. Don't get me wrong, though. Jamar Chase had an incredible first season, 1,455 yards, 13 receiving touchdowns, 81 receptions on 123 targets with a 83.1 PFF grade. Absolute stud. I know in the preseason, he was dropping the ball or whatever, and people were worried about how his hands were going to be. That was nothing to worry about. He came in like a beast, and he did break the record for the most receiving yards as a rookie season. I want to argue in the boy Justin Jefferson's place that he did have an extra game to do it. Without the extra game, he would have not beaten Justin Jefferson's record. But an absolute stud. 19 after your rookie year is definitely an incredible spot. I mean, yeah, after 1 year, he's already, just kind of like how Justin Jefferson came on the map, he's already one of the best players in the league.
Yeah. If he puts up those numbers again next year, top 10 easy, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
It's just the body of work, and we will talk about that with another player later on the list as well. It's just the whole body of work that it's just not quite there yet. One more season though, and yeah, definitely will be up there. So moving on to number 18, another receiver people have ranked highly. One list had him higher than Justin Jefferson as well, is Tyreek Hill. Now, Tyreek Hill is an absolute monster, as we know. Speed demon, good hands. Last season had 1,239 yards and 9 touchdowns, which feels a little down for him, actually. Normally his touchdowns go up. I had him in fantasy. He had a lot of boomer bust games last year where he would have big, like 30-point games. Then he'd come back to earth with like a 10-point game or an 8-point game or whatever. But man, just what he did in Kansas City was nothing short of amazing with Patrick Mahomes. Now that leads us into the question is, can he do it in a new offense? I haven't seen it. Obviously I watch the Chiefs a lot because they're always on national television, but can he run a full route tree is what we're going to have to learn this next season with a quarterback like Tua, who's not going to be able to get the ball to him like Patrick Mahomes. So the reason he's so downgraded here is just because we don't know what, if we're going body of work, which we have talked about, yes, he should be higher than this, but I want to see what he's going to be like in this new offense and if he can do what he did with Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not 100% convinced that he can. So again, same thing with like Jamar Chase. If he puts up his same numbers with a guy like Tua in that offense, then we'll definitely grade him up higher next year. But for now, I think 18 is a good spot. We might take some flack for that one, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, you're right. I think this is a guy that next year, if you're going to remake this list, depending on how he plays this year, he can either go quite a bit up or he could drop down quite a bit. So this is the big thing. Like, is Tyreek Hill a product of Patrick Mahomes to whatever extent? I think he's a stud receiver no matter what, but how much was it Patrick Mahomes?
For sure.
We'll find out this year. So at number 17, the other freshman rookie from last year, Micah Parsons. This guy came in just a beast right off the bat. 61 solo tackles, 9 assist tackles, 3 forced fumbles, an 89.9 overall PFF grade, which is insane. And then 14 sacks of his rookie season. So he came in just a beast right off the bat. You don't see that a lot, but still, I mean, his rookie season, he has one season of any stats or anything to look at. So it's kind of hard to put him any higher than this for us. But what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Again, it's a body of work deal with a guy like Micah Parsons. And again, like you said, do it again next season and you'll definitely break yourself up near the top 10, if not into the top 10. What he did in Dallas that first season, and that's what a lot of people said. He came in as a linebacker, but when he was drafted out of Penn State, people said this guy's going to be a pass rusher. And he's definitely shown it. I think having him in linebacker downgrade some other players, so maybe move him into that edge rusher spot because that's what he is at the end of the day. But yeah, man, absolute monster. I know people had some, I don't know if there was some character concerns coming out of college or what the deal was there, but so far first season, he's haven't heard a peep about anything with that, and the play on the field has been nothing short of spectacular. So
Yeah, the Cowboys
nice
got themselves a good
they
one
did.
there.
What a steal for him. Anyway, moving on. Now, number 15A, 15B.
Okay.
These two, same draft class, of course. Joe Burrow, number 1. Justin Herbert taken by the Chargers, I believe. Was it actually number 10? Is that where he was taken? I don't quite remember.
I think it was.
I
I
was
don't
like 8
remember.
or something. But either
Yeah,
way,
something
these
like
two,
that.
their careers are going to be the ones that are going to be compared together for the duration of their careers because of coming out of that draft class. Both of them in their first 2 seasons showed amazing things. Joe Burrow, obviously, rookie year, tore the ACL. Came back this last year, put up numbers of, 366 completions, 4,611 yards, 34 touchdowns, and 14 interceptions. Comparing that to Justin Herbert, who last season had 443 completions, 5,014 yards, 38 touchdowns, and 15 interceptions.
Yeah.
These guys are both balling. Of course, Joe Burrow helped carry his team to the Super Bowl. Justin Herbert just barely missing the playoffs, but you could argue maybe the team around him was the offense was good. The defense may have been a tad suspect. Have a lot of players there, but they went 9-6 or 9-7, I believe. 9-8, missed the playoffs, and of course, Joe Burrow he started 16 games, went 10-6, making the playoffs, making the Super Bowl run. These guys are both the future of the quarterback position. I've said it before. I do have a tiny man crush on Joe Burrow. I know some people think he's already overrated. I 100% disagree with you. If these guys can keep doing this, they'll take over the top spots that 2 older guys who we're going to talk about later might be leaving for them in that top 10. But man, just what these two have been able to do in their first 2 seasons is nothing short of spectacular. I'm excited to see what they'll do in the future. It was hard to put one ahead of the other, so they're definitely 15A and 15B on our list.
Yeah. Yeah, I get total jealous when I see these guys just because I'm like same draft, both super studs, and as a Viking fan, I just want something like that young guy that can be that franchise cornerstone. Joe Burrow, the case between these two is Joe Burrow is, Justin Herbert is the guy who kind of does have the better stats overall. But Joe Burrow brought his team to a Super Bowl. He has that swag. He has that demeanor, that confidence. And you can't deny that. And I'm someone who actually generally I like the winners. The winners matter more to me. But the part that got me was Justin Herbert in that last game that they did lose to the Raiders. Man, he put that team on his back like 3 times. And I've never been that impressed by a quarterback very often. Just the way he tried his best to win that game and they ended up not pulling through. It was impressive, especially from a second-year quarterback to do that. Yeah. And man, these guys have a bright future for sure.
Right. And that game was really weird, by the way, because that was the one where if they had tied with the Raiders, they both would have made it and kicked the Steelers out. But it was a weird situation. Never seen a game like that. But anyway,
Right. So at number 14, some people might think we kind of have this guy a little high. I think he's by far the best tight end in the NFL right now. Last year, he had 92 receptions, which was second, 1,125 yards, which is second, and 9 touchdowns, which was first with an 81.9 PFF grade. Some people could argue he also is someone that has like the Patrick Mahomes thing. What could he do without Patrick Mahomes? I guess I think he would still be an absolute stud compared to Tyreek Hill.
Wasn't he a stud when he had Alex Smith there?
Yeah, he still was a stud. Obviously, it went up a bit with Patrick Mahomes. So we do have some data saying that he was a stud without Patrick Mahomes. It's just because he's hard to guard, man. I mean, his size and speed and hands, it's like it doesn't matter who's throwing you the ball. You just have to get it towards his direction and his play after the catch, like all of that stuff. I just think there's just no one else like him. And now this year, I can only imagine things are going to be absolutely insane for him without having a Tyreek Hill.
Right.
What do you think?
Yeah, I love me some Travis Kelce, man. He puts it all out on the field every year. He's been a late first round, early second round pick in fantasy every year since Patrick Mahomes got there. Guy's a monster. I like him. I like him a lot. Definitely easily best tight end in the NFL. No questions asked. Nobody even comes close. So moving on to number 13, the other Bosa brother, as we talked about, Nick Bosa, San Francisco 49ers. Rookie season came in, had nine sacks in his rookie season. Obviously, the injuries came into play the second year. Early on in the season, he tore his ACL after 2 games, unfortunately shortening his season. But last year, the man absolutely came back strong for the San Francisco 49ers. I'm trying to find his stats here. He put up 15.5 sacks last year played all 17 games after coming back from the knee injury.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and everybody knew that, last year or the year before last, you felt his presence missed along that defensive line. But when he came back in, he changed that entire defense. Part of pretty much the only reason why they made it as far as they did in the playoffs and beat the freaking Green Bay Packers, is just because of that defense. And Nick Bosa is the man that makes that defense run. He's the battery on that defense. They have other good players for sure, of course, like Fred Warner behind him at linebacker spot.
Right.
But man, just what this guy can do on his own is absolutely fantastic and easily deserving this spot in our top 25.
Right. He's a game wrecker, man. He's the one that he's like it's crazy when you have a defender who can change the game by himself. And he's that guy who comes up in big moments and just changes, whether it's a sack or forced fumble or whatever. Like he just I don't know. He can be a game changer on defense, and that's very rare. And the only players you'll see is the players that can do that are these players that are on this top 25 list. Which brings us to the next one, Myles Garrett. Ever since coming in, he was a number 1 overall pick, right?
Yep.
Ever since coming in, number 1 overall pick. Unfortunately for the Browns, with all this other dysfunction that they got going on there, at least they have this guy. He's been a stud ever since he's came in last year. 25 solo tackles, 18 sacks, tied for second. Insane from your edge rusher there with a 92 PFF grade. Insane. This guy's just an absolute stud, man. I mean, like, you just don't get. He's probably the best defensive end player in the league, or arguably the best defensive end player in the league. If you want to put, because TJ Watt, or we'll get to him here soon, but is he considered a defensive end or is he considered a linebacker?
I think he just considered a pass
kind of the hybrid. So it's kind of, I guess it depends on you look at it like that. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. He's a stud. What do you think on him?
Yeah, I love Myles Garrett. Guy can swing a mean helmet too, as you see, it's in his hand right there. But of course, playing for the Browns hurts. But man, he's got Jadeveon Clowney on the other side of him now. The Browns defense is solid as well. So yeah, the guy's an absolute monster. I believe he just signed a massive contract extension somewhat recently. Guy's a stud. Definitely one of the top edge rushers in the league, which is why he ends up being number 12 on our list. Good for him there. Moving on to the top-rated offensive lineman on our list at number 11, Trent Williams of the San Francisco 49ers. Now, of course, he started out I don't know if he started out protecting Kirk, but at a point in his career in his first team with Washington on his first team, he did protect Kirk Cousins. Vikings almost got him before he went to San Francisco. The trade did not end up working out. We did not get him. But man, the guy, I always thought, he was aging out a little bit. I thought we'd see some decline. But this last season, in 936 snaps, only allowed 1 sack. Definitely one of the top tackles in the NFL, protecting a quarterback like a Jimmy Garoppolo who needs as much protection as he can get. 17 penalties are a little high, but Trent Williams, to me, shows zero signs of slowing down. The guy's an absolute monster. One of the best, obviously on our list, the best offensive lineman in the NFL. And, even like I said, even with his age, surprising to see him go this far.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a 97.8 PFF grade last year, which is nuts.
Yeah, it's so insane, man. And he's just been so consistent throughout his whole career. It's just, how do you play at that high of a level for that long? It was crazy because there's rumors about the Vikings trying to get him. That would have been a game changer.
Yeah, but we still get Christian.
We got Christian Darrisaw, so I mean, everything works out. Yeah, exactly. At 10, we got the boy Justin Jefferson. I mean, some people probably like, how do you put him in the top 10 already? I mean, I think the stats will argue that itself. We already know he has the most receiving yards ever in the first 2 years of a wide receiver in NFL history. Last year, he had 108 receptions on 163 receptions or targets, which was fourth. 1,616 receiving yards for second and 10 touchdowns, which is tied for sixth with a PFF grade of 90.1. I mean, this kid's an absolute stud. I mean, I know we're Viking fans, but if you're just from a PFF standpoint, I mean, you're talking 90 PFF score. That's top 10 already in itself. And I mean, second receiving yards, tied for touchdown. Maybe we'll see. Hopefully, we can see a little jump this year. But I mean, if you're considering the future as well, I mean, this upcoming year with a new offensive minded coordinator, it could go crazy. And he did this. He did all of this with a defensive minded coach, a run first coach. So I don't know, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, what more needs to be said? JJ is JJ. He's like in his second year, he's already one of the better receivers in football, probably top three.
We have him
maybe
top three here.
Yeah, definitely top three. So the fact that he's doing all this in his, going into his third season, pretty damn impressive. So the sky's the limit. In an offense, it's going to be a lot more pass heavy, a lot more wide open. It'll be interesting to see if he excels even farther than what he's already done, which I think he will. And it's crazy to think about. Like, he hasn't even reached his ceiling yet, not even close. Yeah, and he's only 23 or 22 years old, 23 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
So the rest of the league, I mean, they're already watching out for it, but they need to watch out even harder for the likes of 18, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, so, he's gonna march his way to number one eventually here. So
Speaking of number one, the number one cornerback on our list and the only cornerback in our top 25 checks in at number 9. That is Jalen Ramsey of the Los Angeles Rams. Now, Jalen Ramsey went to the Jacksonville Jaguars out of Florida State when he was drafted back in 2016, and since then has been one of the top corners in the NFL easily. Coming off one of his probably best seasons, which he played every game. He had 4 interceptions for 41 yards and then 16 passes defended, which is second most in his career. 2017, he had 17 passes defended. But the thing that some of those players, when they're not on your team and they talk a lot, you hate to hear him do it. Jalen Ramsey, which I think we talked about in a different video, he's the type of guy that ever since he's came into the league, he's talked a huge game. I think he said he wanted to be the best corner in the league when he came out of Florida State. But what he does day in and day out is he backs up his words. And that's what you need. A true shutdown corner in today's NFL, in the pass-happy NFL, best corner in the league easily. The guy's an absolute stud. And he's only 27 years old. He still has a ways to go. Checking in this year with an 84.5 PFF grade, which is very solid. Man, Jalen Ramsey, absolute monster. What do you think?
Yeah, man. I mean, he's true shutdown corner. He can do a little everything. He can hit hard. I mean, when you watch him, he's
9 tackles per loss last year.
I was going to say, you see him getting in the backfield and making plays there. I mean, he makes plays all over the field. He's a game changer in almost every asset. And that's why he's the only one on this list, but it's why he's one of the best defenders in the league, not just a cornerback, because he can do a lot more than that,
Yeah, for sure.
We have Justin Jefferson at top 10. I mean, the guy is amazing. Who could we have better than him? Well, one of the guys, there's 2 other wide receivers on this list. The next one is a guy that would have been really hard to put on this list in this fashion just this past season. But now that he plays for the better team in Oakland Raiders,
Vegas Raiders.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Las Vegas Raiders, man. All the name changes is going to screw me up here. Devonta Adams. I mean, we can officially call him a stud. Even when he was a Packer, he actually probably was my favorite Packer. I like him as a person. He's not afraid to give credit where credit's due to other players. He seems like a humble guy in that way. So I always really liked him, even though he's a Packer, but now I like him a lot more since he's not. For a PFF stat standpoint, PFF standpoint, he had 123 receptions with 166 targets for second place, 1,553 yards for third behind Jefferson, 11 touchdowns, and a 92.7 PFF grade, which is super insane. Yeah, man. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when he's in Oakland with Vegas. Derek Carr, but I think there's a chance that he was making Aaron Rodgers more than Aaron Rodgers was making him. So I'm assuming we're going to see another huge season out of Devonta Adams.
Yeah, man. I love me some Devonta Adams. Like you said, it was tough to say that when he played for the Packers, but he was always one of those guys that you're like, God, I like this guy, even though he played for that team. Him and Aaron Jones are the two guys on the team that I actually kind of like. But yeah, I mean, I hate to put him above JJ, but man, his body of work throughout his career is almost unmatched in the NFL today. So
right.
Love what I see from Devonta. I know him and Derek Carr, they have a connection. They play together at Fresno State. So it'll be interesting to see what he does without Aaron Rodgers throwing on the ball. I mean, Derek Carr is not Aaron Rodgers. We'll say that right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting, but he's obviously going to become the top target in that offense, which was lacking a surefire number one receiver on that team.
Yeah.
Obviously they have Hunter Renfrow, who's a solid number 2/3 receiver. They have Bryan Edwards, who's pretty good. And then they have Darren Waller at tight end. So putting Devonta Adams in that crew probably bumps that up to a, top 5-ish, top 6, 7 wide receiver pass catching core right there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It'll be interesting to see where he goes. And I think he's going to have a solid season. So love me some Devonta Adams at number 8. I think that's a very, very fair spot for Devonta Adams. So,
all
right, moving on. Number 7, our second defense, or the second of our top 2 defensive players on this list. Checking in at number 7 is Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker TJ Watt. Now, just like his older brother JJ Watt, came into the league right away and started dominating. Game changer on the defensive side of the ball. Last year, 22.5 sacks. I believe that's tied for the record, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and he did it in 15 games. So if he plays one or two more games, he easily breaks that record. I mean, just looking at his sack numbers since he came into the league in 2017, 7 sacks, 13, 14.5, 15, and 22.5. He keeps getting better year after year. Forced 5 fumbles this year. Man, I mean, you just look at these stats and they're amazing. Tackles for loss, 21. He has 72 career sacks in 5 years. He's going to go down just like his brother as being one of the top defensive players in the league. He's already won 3 defense. Did he win 3 defensive player of the year awards? 1. Just won this last year. Came in second place the year before and third place the year before that. But if you want to talk about an animal on the defensive side of the ball from a pass rushing standpoint, and a guy that actually does change the game for the defense, that maybe, he gets those double blocks on him, double team blocks. Man, TJ Watt, unmatched. The guy's an absolute monster. There's only one guy in the league who I'd consider a better defensive player. We'll get to that soon.
Yeah.
But man, watching him play, like any team, when you have to go against him, it's scary.
Yeah. No, it's crazy, man. Like I mentioned earlier, the whole family thing. It's like JJ Watt was already considered. There's a time where he probably was considered the number 1 defensive player in the league, at least for a moment there. The guy that we're going to be talking about soon here, he's just been insane for this entire time. It's hard to say if that guy's never been the number 1, but it's just crazy. How do you have like your brother come in and now he's just like takes your place, like no problem. It's crazy. And TJ Watt is insane. I think we're going to see a lot of him and Nick Bosa. It's always going to be between them two, I think. Because did they get drafted in the same year, or was it was just right next to each other? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because I know TJ Watt, he ended up going like late in the first round, I believe, like later in the first round. And it's Pittsburgh Steelers. They always just have good defense, and they always seem to get that guy for their defense. And they did it again with TJ Watt.
Yeah, no, Bosa came into the league in 2019, so 2 years after TJ Watt did.
Oh,
it's weird to think TJ Watt's already been in the league for 5 years.
Oh wow, it does.
But he's not, not even close to. I mean, he's reached his potential, of course. But man, this guy's going to dominate the game as long as he can stay healthy for years to come easily. So
yeah. Maybe I'm thinking Joey Bosa. But yeah. So from there, we'll go to our number 6, and the guy who we have is the top wide receiver, and it's Cooper Kupp. I mean, he came into like no one probably would have said this going into this season. This Cooper Kupp has always been underrated. And I think this is finally where he's rated where he should be. And he had to do a lot for it to happen, including winning a Super Bowl. Last year, he had one of the best wide receiver seasons of all time with 145 receptions and 189 targets, number 1 in receptions, 1,947 receiving yards for number 1, and 16 receiving touchdowns, which was also number 1. PFF grade of 92.3. Super Bowl win, like I already said. I mean, this guy just blew it up last year. It's crazy what he did. I think he was in my fantasy league. He was drafted in like the 5th or 6th round or something like that. And now he's considered a top 5 pick going into as a wide receiver. And man, if he can keep getting better, I do think Justin Jefferson is going to leapfrog him and Devonta Adams as early as next year. I think Cooper Kupp probably lost one of his most important assets in KOC, which Justin Jefferson has now. So we'll see. But no, I Cooper Kupp had an amazing season, and he's a great wide receiver. What do you think?
Yeah, man. It's crazy how Matthew Stafford has been the quarterback for the top two receiving seasons from a yardage standpoint in NFL history, with obviously
True.
Cooper Kupp and back in the day with Kelvin Johnson. So Matt Stafford knows how to sling the ball. Didn't quite crack our top 25, but he's close. But yeah, man, it just kind of makes you think that a wide receiver for a while here may never win MVP, because that season is pretty spectacular. But of course, it's always going to go back to the person throwing him the ball. Justin Jefferson will break that, though. He will be a receiver to win MVP
next year, probably.
We'll talk about that when that happens. But man, it does make you wonder if it will actually ever happen. I mean, obviously we're a Vikings channel, we're going to say that type of stuff. But I mean, the fact with that season, he got I think he got like 1 or 2 votes, but man, you got to do some crazy stuff to receiver to get MVP, because like I said, of course, it's always going to go back to the quarterback. But yeah, man, I know we talked back before about a body of work with some of these players, how we weren't ready to put them up high. But like you said, Cooper Kupp, he's put together a lot of solid seasons up until this point already. But this season, it was more on the forefront when Stafford came in, and that offense really shifted under a better quarterback play after Jared Goff. But yeah, man, Cooper Kupp is an absolute stud. Like you said, he's going to be a top fantasy wide receiver picked up this year. And yeah, I mean, he's still relatively young, I want to say. So he's got a few more good years ahead of him. But yeah, it was fun to watch him play this last year, man. It was amazing. I'm curious to see where his career is going to go from here. If he can keep getting better, if this season was kind of a flash in the pan. I mean, it's not every year you're going to get 1,900 yards and 18 touchdowns or whatever he had, 16 touchdowns. But yeah, this season definitely catapults him into this spot, and I think he's well deserving of it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he's as physically talented as guys like Devonta Adams and Justin Jefferson, but he knows how to get open. He's got good hands, so he uses all that to his advantage to put him up above those guys in our list.
Right.
Yeah, so solid player. So let's start. We're going to get a little run on quarterbacks going here. So let's start. Number 5, the ageless wonder, Tampa Bay quarterback, Tom freaking Brady. Now, Tom Brady is a guy every year you expect him to come in. You're like, he's got to take the fall this year. He's got to start dropping off. This last year, I mean, and you notice the arm strength is dwindling a little bit. You notice that last year, and they won the Super 2 years ago, and they won the Super Bowl.
Right.
He led Tampa to a 13-4 record, 485 completions, which is the most in his career, 719 attempts, which is the most in his career, 5,316 yards, 43 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. Like, you would think this guy's out here is like a 30-something-year-old quarterback, but no, the guy's going to be 45 this next year. Tom Brady shows no sign of slowing down. Obviously, they lost to the Rams in the playoffs. I think things would have been a lot different had Chris Godwin not suffered the ACL injury, which is going to hold him out a little bit this season as well. But the ageless one, I mean, everybody for a while, I fell into the hate on Tom Brady, but people will say he gets favoritive calls, but a lot of these big time quarterbacks do. But we may never see a quarterback like this again, who comes in and wins 7 Super Bowls, and he still has a chance to win another one. Maybe even 2 more, who knows? But we as NFL fans need to enjoy what we're seeing with Tom Brady. Quit hating, because you may never see a run like this again in NFL history. It's amazing what he's done.
Yeah, I've always been a Tom Brady fan. And it's like you just can't hate anymore. I mean, he's proven way too much now. It took him, how many Super Bowl rings does he have now?
7.
Went so 7 Super Bowl is like after the 4th one, people had his doubts. What's that?
He's 7 of 10. He went to 10, didn't he? Lost 3, won 7. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. But everybody has had their doubts and that and all that stuff. And even at the end of his Patriots career was when people were saying like Tom Brady's getting old. You can tell his arms slowing down and all this stuff. And I've probably heard like 3 or 4 times since then that he's too old, he's not going to last much longer or whatever. And he keeps coming out. And I mean, he had that last year was one of his best statistical years I think he's ever had. And he just like straight proved everybody wrong. And I think that the last Super Bowl that happened with the Patriots, that was like, it's over. There's no conversation. Tom Brady's the GOAT in the entire NFL. I don't care what position. everything. And then the fact that he ends up going to Tampa Bay and winning them, even though it's a talented roster, I don't care. It's hard to win in the NFL. You go to a new team and then you bring them to a Super Bowl win. The guy's, he's insane, and he's still doing it even at 45 years old.
Right. And this next guy should take some notes on how to win the big game.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that, this next guy who, we had a hard time even putting on this list at all, let alone number 4. And, it hurts us to do it, but we have to be real and we have to do it. I still think he's overrated because some people would put him number 1 on their list. And I think there's no way that should be. And that guy is Aaron Rodgers. There's no question. This guy, I mean, back-to-back MVP seasons?
4 total, yeah.
4 total. There's no question he's kills it in the regular season, doesn't do as well in playoffs, especially NFC championships. And that's the biggest problem. That's why I don't think he can ever be that number 1 guy, especially right now. I honestly would have picked Tom Brady over him for MVP this season. But yeah, what do you think on Aaron Rodgers, man?
Yeah, man. I got to bring it back to Anchorman in the immortal words of Wes Mantooth when he said to Ron Burgundy, "With every ounce of my being, I hate you. Goddamn, do I respect you." And that's the way I feel with Aaron Rodgers. You hate him because he plays for the Packers, but you got to give respect where respect is due. I mean, the guy is a winner for sure. Not in the big games, of course, but when it comes to the regular season, the guy is a winner. Puts up amazing stats. 4 MVPs is insane. Another guy, he's every year he looks brittle bones Rodgers. He looks like he could touch him once and he's going to break. But other than the 1 year where he broke his collarbone, he stayed relatively healthy. And yeah, it's just, it's amazing to watch him keep playing the way he does. I mean, I hate it as a Vikings fan. I do think with Devonta Adams out, I think it's going to come back a little bit just because the talent isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But he is one of those guys, and you've seen it with people that leave his team. He's one of those guys that elevates the team around him for sure. So, yeah, again, hate to put him on there, but,
we don't have choice. Number 4, and that's pretty good. It's a fair score for him.
Yeah, I would agree. But anyway, so as we talked about these last 2 guys, I think eventually the likes of Burrow and Herbert will take their spots. But
yes,
the guys that hold, we'll start, we got 3 players left. 2 of them are going to be other quarterbacks. So the first guy to hold the spot, up-and-comer, not up-and-comer, Josh Allen has arrived. So you look at the career of Josh Allen, and he came into the league as a raw talent. He's kind of a Lamar Jackson-esque type guy. The running, the athletic ability, unmatched, unquestioned ever. He's got that. But people wondered, was he going to be able to develop as a passer? And goddamn it, Josh Allen has developed as a passer. Throughout the years, first season, 2,074 yards, 10 touchdowns, 3,089 yards. And then he really picked it up. 4,544 yards with 37 touchdowns in 2020. This last year, touchdowns came down a little bit. Interceptions went up. 4,407, 36 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. But you just think of you got to look at all aspects of his game. This year, he ran for 763 yards with 6 touchdowns. The guy's an all-around dynamic threat.
Yeah.
One of the most exciting players to watch play the game right now. And him and the guy who's going to be on our list in a little bit here, along with Herbert and Burrow, they are the future of the NFL. The NFL, it's stacked with quarterback play. Plus, you got some older guys, the Russell Wilsons of the world, Matthew Stafford's, Dak Prescott's-ish. Then you got guys like Lamar Jackson we talked about, Kirk Cousins, who is just, but man, like the league is in a great place with quarterback play right now. More are coming in the future. Trevor Lawrence could take a big step as well. You got Tua. We'll see what he does, but man,
Zach the MILF Slayer Wilson.
Yeah. But yeah, Josh Allen though, man, unmatched physical beast. His arm is, everyone knew he had a big arm and now he's finally showing it.
Yep.
He's so fun to watch. One of my favorite players in the NFL. And yeah, man, love me some Josh Allen. Very much deserving of number 3 on our list. He
could definitely be arguable as the best all-around quarterback in the NFL. You could probably say.
For sure.
I would just agree with you. I mean, I actually did like, because where did he go to? He came from.
I think he was Wyoming, right?
Wyoming, yes. And I actually I liked him coming out of there. I don't really know that much stuff, but I did like him coming out of there. And it is crazy to see what he has turned into, especially from his rookie season when his passing was all over the place. I still remember that hurdle he did against us his rookie season. That was crazy to see him do that. So it's like the legs and all that stuff was always there. And it's crazy to see when you can actually see, because there's so many quarterbacks that just never, especially if you're a Viking fan, they just never progress to where you hope they do. You see the potential, but they just never reach there. And Josh Allen, he did it. He had all the tools and everything you would want, and he actually became the end product that you thought he could be. It's crazy. And now he's one of the best, if arguably the best in the league at this point.
For sure.
All right, from there, we'll go to our number 2 and the best defensive player in the league, the best defensive player in my lifetime, probably. I don't know. It is definitely fair to say he's
non-arguably best player right now defensively, arguably best player in history.
And our best defensively.
Yeah.
Defensively. And that's Aaron Donald. I mean, this guy's absolutely insane. He can change it. He's like the quarterback of a team. He's like a Josh Allen. He can just change the game by himself from the defense, which is crazy that a player can even do that. And we'll go into his stats. I mean, he had 49 solo tackles, which is third for defensive tackles, 15 sacks. You're talking about a defensive end, and he's pulling up 15 sacks, which is first for defensive ends. Nope. It's got to be no problem. I mean, defensive tackle. Did I say ends? Yeah, defensive tackles. Four forced fumbles, which is also first, and a 93.6 PFF grade. I mean, everything's there to say that he is the best defender in the league, and he's just been the best defensive tackle in the league, defenseman in the league, but defensive tackle for almost his entire career, and he just doesn't slow down. And he just won a Super Bowl, and if he would have, it would have been definitely a sad sight to see if he would have ended up retiring after this year, because he is arguably could be the greatest defensive player of all time. I mean, his name's definitely has to be in the conversation, and as long as he keeps playing, he has a lot of time left to make that happen.
The guy trains with knives too, so that's pretty cool.
He trains with knives?
Yeah, you never saw that? He was like, some guy was like throwing knives around. He was doing his hand placements and stuff, trying to push the knives away and stuff. Yeah,
that's next level,
sick,
man.
Aaron Donald's a monster. Don't think we need to say much else. The guy's a treasure. I wish we had him. It would be great.
Yeah,
could have had him. I think we took Anthony Barr that year instead of him, but a lot of people passed on him, and now we're seeing that they were all wrong. But anyway,
right.
Moving on. Top player on the list. This last season was not his best, but man.
Oh,
Patrick,
it's number one.
Supposed to be number one. But Patrick Mahomes. So he's been in the league for 6 years, 5 years only. Yeah, 5 years. He's already won a Super Bowl and made another. His second season, first full season as starter, 50 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. His lowest yardage total was 4,031 when he missed 2 games a couple years back in 2019. I believe that's when he dislocated his kneecap, which was crazy. But just the things this guy, plus he has the scrambling ability. He's not a running quarterback, but he's a scrambler, and he does what he needs to do to make a play.
Mm-hmm.
But just the sheer talent out of Patrick Mahomes, and it's just, you listen to him, and he just seems like a relatively, like, just a perfectly good dude, which is cool to see. His brother and his brother's another story, his wife or whatever, it is what it is. People have their own opinions. It is what it is there. But man, just what this guy can do on the football field, unmatched. I mean, obviously, him and just the game between him and Josh Allen was just, it's the glimpse into the future of what the NFL is going to be down the road with all these great quarterbacks, man. The league is in good hands from a quarterback play perspective, and I'm super excited to see where it goes. But for right now, Patrick Mahomes, man, even after a low season with a 77.5 PFF grade, I have no question that this guy is still the best quarterback in the NFL overall. And he's only going into his 6th season, which is nuts. I mean, if he plays to the age of Tom Brady, the guy's got so many years left. And if there's a guy who I think will end up matching Brady for Super Bowls, I mean, we're seeing the contract situation kind of come into play here, losing Tyreek Hill and whatnot, but he's a good front office to draft well. But I could see him pushing for those 7 Super Bowls. I really, really could with his talent.
Yeah, there's no question. This guy's absolute stud. He's, I think, the greatest quarterback from a talent's perspective that I've seen, just from straight raw talent. Last year, you're right. He did take a little bit, took a back step a little bit, but if you look at his whole career and what his future will look like, I think that will just not be that big of a deal. We've seen it with Brady. We've seen it with Aaron Rodgers. People are just counting Aaron Rodgers out a few years ago, and then now he's won back-to-back MVPs. I don't think from a talent level, arm talent level, there's any quarterback ever who is as Patrick Mahomes' arm and talent. I just don't think there is.
No.
And I think he's going to have a bounce back season this year, though it will be interesting to see. And they will say a lot because without Tyreek Hill, you'll see how well, just like we said with how Tyreek Hill will do without Mahomes, how will Mahomes do without Tyreek Hill? It will show a lot because we will see a drop in talent from the wide receiver position. But if he can have a bounce back season from there, I think it's going to be obvious again that he's for sure the number one guy in the league, like he was just a few years ago.
Yeah,
and there wasn't really much of an argument.
Right. For sure, man. I agree. Patrick Mahomes, absolute monster. So our full list, you can see right here. I think we did a pretty good job with this. It is tough. I'll give those guys credit for putting together a top 100. It's tough to figure out this list. There's so many talented players. As I said, when you just look at this list, and this is only a small sample size of what's in the league right now, and the league is in good hands from a player perspective. So, and there's so many young rising stars on this list that the NFL isn't going anywhere anytime soon. It's easily the most popular sport in America, and it's going to stay that way for the long haul. So I'm excited to see where these players go. I want some more Vikings to end up cracking this top 25 in the future, and I definitely think they will. Any other thoughts?
Just had Justin Jefferson's going to be number one. Let's go.
Let's go. All right.
Yards receiving, maybe.
Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, a long one I know, but thank you for sticking with us. Leave a like for us. Let us know down in the comments if you agree with this list. Let us know who you would put at number one, that type of stuff. Put that down in the comment section. If you do want to check out some of our other videos, you can use the links right up here. If you haven't subscribed already, which Jamie said, we're halfway to 1,000 subscribers. Hit that subscribe button, help us out there, and we will see you guys in the next episode of the GG Sports Podcast.
Skol Vikes.